All right, continuing to build shapes. We're going to need to get this vacancy sign here. That's just going to be something simple that we're going to texture to make it look cool. I just want to make sure it kind of fits in the same kind of scale. And just squeeze this down to make sure we can get everything to fit kind of on top of it. I kind of want that to be the piece that's kind of more from the front, but not so much the side. I want to make sure these kind of pieces sit over top of it. And so we're going to kind of give this a little bit of a dynamic here. We're going to just make the top a little bigger and the bottom just a bit bigger so it gets all that shape in there. And we're going to go ahead and grab a cylinder to get these parts down here as well as these little peg parts. So we're going to grab a cylinder, drag it out, pull it up. And we just need something that reads well because it's kind of a small thing. So we'll go to, say, let's see, we can do 6 for the top ones, and then maybe we'll do 8 for the bottom ones. We'll go ahead and put it up to 10 just in case we want to do any bends. We'll turn that. Rotate that by 90 degrees. Same goes for that. So rotate that 90 degrees. And we don't need the tops or the bottom, we just need the actual peg. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the top and the bottom and then go ahead and soften the normals. So normals, soften edge. And so it's going to try to read like an actual cylinder now instead of like a faceted object. Like I said, it's pretty small, so we're not too concerned about this one. And then we're also going to duplicate it over here. And then this part kind of needs something to hang on to over here, so we'll duplicate it one more time. We might end up replacing these later when we actually do just UV to 1. It's up to you if you want it to be very individual on the UV map, or if you want it to be say, for instance, like you want each one to look different, or maybe you want to do one and then turn it, rotate it a bit so they look different. Just any way you can save texture space. I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is inside of that. And then this one, and that's the reason why I haven't duplicated this part yet, is because essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this, I'm going to UV it, and then I'm going to move it across and then change the UV slightly and save myself some time. So I don't need these edges again. Go ahead and delete those. Soften the normals on this. And I'm going to move this over here. Size it up a bit. Make sure it looks like it could be something that could actually support a structure of this size. And we just want the top part to really sink in there and make sure it's big enough. And then we're just going to grab the inverts, drag them down, and then move it over some. And the same goes for this. We'll rotate it by 180. Excuse me, not 1080, 180. Okay, so now that's complete. And if you're having an issue where, say for instance, this is going to be penetrating right here, one thing you could do is you could either size this up a little bit, like this. Just make sure it's all inside. Or you could, what I did for the actual final model was I actually just cut here and here, so it looked like it just was only attached to the top and bottom, but the inside was empty. So we'll do it like that too as well here. And the last part we'll be doing is going to be the spaceship, and that's actually going to be one of the easiest ones because it's just pretty much a cylinder with a few extrusions. So we'll extrude that. I'll go ahead and throw an edge loop in here. And pull it in like that. And make sure I'm going to delete these insides so it makes it a little easier to extrude this part. I looked at a few references of like kind of like cheesy spaceships that are kind of retro looking. They all kind of have this general flying saucer shape. So it's just something I kind of want to get at least an idea of when I'm doing this. So I'll move that down. Maybe I don't need, let's see, make sure all these verts. Zoom in a little bit here so you can see what I'm doing. Select all the verts sometimes. They get separated. So delete this edge. It's looking decent. I'm going to keep messing with it some. I'm going to pull this in here. Like I said, I want to make sure delete this inside because I don't need that part right now. And I'm going to grab that, extrude this up. You're just trying to define some basic shape. And just kind of be kind of creative with the shape. I mean, anything will really work. Just something that you feel like from a distance, or also you can turn the lights off here. If you don't have any lights in the scene, you can use all lights and it'll just give you a blank thing, and you can kind of test it to see what the silhouette is reading like. Right now it's still a little boring, so I'm going to keep messing with this. I'm going to put this in here, extrude this out, and pull it down some. And let's give it some rockets at the end here. I'll merge it to the center, the inside. So that's how the bottom looks. And then right here, the top is still looking a little boring, so I might add that edge loop back in just to maybe define some shape in here. Yeah, let's see. Let me pull this out some. So it's looking pretty flying saucery. That's a word. Okay, so that reads pretty well for me for right now. Most of the styling we'll be doing on it is going to be through texturing. Say for instance, if you want to add anything, you could add like maybe some fins on it. Maybe even stretch it out some so that maybe it looks cooler this way, you know, maybe get some different dynamic shapes to it, flatten it out this way. Just kind of anything you want to do to give it some creative flair. But like I said, most of the style we're going to be adding to these models are going to be through the texture work. So I'm going to go ahead and soften this, and then I'm going to pick the edges that I really want to harden. So like on the edges here, I want these to be hard. This kind of dips in right here, and this is kind of a flat surface, so I want to make sure I harden that. I could probably harden this right here as well. I tend to harden at places where I know I'm going to cut, or there's going to be a change in pattern or color or texture, just because it'll help me when I cut the UVs up, and also just help me visually understand where the cuts are within the actual model. So I'm going to harden these up. And I'll harden this one up. And yeah, it looks pretty good for me for right now. That's what I needed to do. And let's see. Might add one more edge loop in here, maybe get a curve. Yeah, it looks pretty good there. Let's soften this one back up. It's got kind of an interesting curve. Okay, now I'm gonna pull it up a little bit and rotate it. Rotate it 90 degrees. Negative 90. And I'm only doing 90 right now instead of at this candid, like kind of like this candid angle right here, because it's going to make it easier to UV it when you have it at a 90-degree angle, because it's going to be reading from how it projects the UVs. It's going to be straight down, straight on the top and bottom. So I'll turn it later on when I get to a point after I've UV'd it. But for now, it's just going to help me get a good read on the UVs and make a good UV setup. So that's pretty much that. Then let's see here, make sure this is good. So it looks pretty good there. And then, like I said, this will be duplicated a couple times, and let's just check to make sure. So I'm gonna maybe add a few bits and bobs on in the next chapter for the last bits and pieces we need before we start UVing.